I've got to say, can you see the sea there? It's absolutely mental today. I'll have a little look at that. Look at those waves, man. They're huge. Absolutely huge. Oh, I just had to point that out. Back to the video. Greetings, hello, and welcome to another of our Man Talks. Today, I am absolutely shocked. I'm shocked beyond belief because I have found a video on the GB News YouTube channel that I totally agree with and think is a great video. I'm absolutely shocked. Give me your thoughts. Let's get into it.
LAURENCE Fox, thank you for joining us this morning. I'm going to guess that you don't agree with vaccine passports. I think that's a safe guess to make. But can they be ever legitimate, or are you completely ideologically opposed to them?
I'm opposed to them because they are massively discriminatory and they change the relationship between the citizen and the state. So in order to go about your everyday life, you're going to be mandated to have a vaccination. And that means, you know, that sets a dreadful precedent. Where does that finish? You know, do you get to 25 years old and the state suddenly go, well, you don't need both kidneys, we're going to have one of them and give them to someone else? Where does it stop?
You selfish bastard, having two kidneys, come on, hand one over, there's people that need it here.
But do you, so obviously Michael Gove said it's selfish to not get double jabbed, and there are a small proportion of people, sizable, but small proportion who don't want to get jabbed for various reasons. I mean, what would you say to those people? Of course people have the right not to get jabbed, but objectively, it can be a bit selfish, surely.
Well, I think surely isn't Michael Gove selfish for getting jabbed? I mean, do you think he was going, yes, I really want to serve other people, or do you think he was going, I don't want to get the virus and therefore I'm going to get a jab? It's a selfish act in itself.
Both is equally warranted. Michael Gove, you selfish prick. Just because you're in the government doesn't mean you get a jab. Let everyone else get one first.
The reason why this is being discussed, it seems to be that all of the commentary around the idea that we may introduce vaccine passports is because there's a lower uptake amongst young people and in certain groups. Particularly that's what we saw with social care staff, that these people have been having a lower than average uptake of the vaccine, and so these measures have been brought in. If we had a higher uptake voluntarily across the country, perhaps this wouldn't be discussed in this way. What's your view on that?
I think, again, it's a huge mistake because they're going to find in Cornwall, I hear, that they don't want to make a fuss, the care home staff who don't want to be vaccinated and provide a vaccine passport to work, that they're just going to walk out of work. So you're going to have a lot of elderly and vulnerable people, you know, the ones we've been trying to protect with no one to look after them.
But surely the counter-argument to that is, well, those vulnerable people, they're trying to be protected because when they get the virus, if they were to get the virus, then they would have a very high chance of having a severe disease and perhaps death. So actually, the fundamental point is the way to protect those people is to get everybody jabbed.
What about natural immunity? Natural immunity is just as good as a jab immunity, actually better.
So, of course! All this time I've been doing it wrong. All this time I should have known. Next time I go to the toilet and I'm bleeding out my arsehole, instead of ringing the doctor, I'm going to give LAURENCE Fox a call. Because obviously he's the man in the know when it comes to medicines, when it comes to vaccines. Who better to trust than an actor?
Natural immunity is just as good as a jab immunity, actually better. So why can't they?
But it really isn't, is it?
Is it really not?
No, because on top of natural immunity, your vaccine will protect you by up to 95% against hospitalisation. There are lots of cases of people, not only in their 80s, but people in their late 40s. There are some cases, I mean, admittedly very few, but some people in their 20s have been hospitalised with this virus as a result of their natural immunity. Now, there's no way of knowing who's going to be really seriously affected by this virus, and getting that vaccine massively reduces your chance of going to hospital.
What about normal flu? So if you've got normal flu as a care home worker and you walk into a care home and you give someone normal, nasty influenza, another airborne respiratory virus, which is very bad for old people, do they need a passport for that too?
Well, normal flu doesn't kill or have the potential
It does
to kill.
It kills
hundreds
lots
of
of
thousands of people.
Let the man finish. He wasn't saying flu doesn't kill people. If you let him finish the sentence, he's saying flu does not kill hundreds of thousands of people like COVID does.
people. Do they need a passport for that too?
Well, normal flu doesn't kill or have the potential to kill.
It kills
hundreds
lots
of thousands of people. I mean, there's a difference because flu is endemic, whereas this has been a pandemic. Hopefully, we're going to reach the stage where COVID becomes endemic in the country, and we don't need to have all of these non-pharmaceutical interventions. But while it is still in this pandemic stage, while there is still so many people under such risk, while the NHS has this risk of actually cancelling non-COVID services, as we've seen horrifically over the last year, the number of cancer diagnoses that have gone missed, I think, is appalling. That's because we've been at risk of overwhelming those health services, becoming the COVID health service rather than the National Health Service. Surely there are some of these risks that we really do need to take seriously.
The fear that's been generated by this government is absolutely disproportionate to the risk that this virus causes young people particularly. And anyway, I'm trying to bring those two sides together, not further apart.
Are you trying to bring these sides together, though? Because I've seen what you've tweeted about vaccines in the past. You've used the word vaccine in a quote as if this isn't a real vaccine. You've said that these haven't passed their trials when they have passed their phase 3 clinical trials. You've said that young people shouldn't get the vaccine when really we know that in order to reach herd immunity, young people have to get this vaccine. Aren't you part of the problem here?
Should I get a Tom Harwood tweet approval passport as well? Would that help?
I think everyone should, really. That would really help.
I feel for you as a person, because as a young man, you're very disproportionately worried about this thing that's not going to do you any harm. So.
See, I'm just sick to death of this bloody argument now about young people shouldn't get the jab. I mean, come on, people. Are we seriously that stupid in this country to ignore the fact that young people are not getting the jab for themselves? They're getting it to protect everyone else. How stupid. Has no one ever explained this to Laurence Fox? Seriously, it's not a difficult concept. It's like when you when you have to like stare someone down in the face that will just like deny evolution. It's exactly the same sort of thing. It's not that difficult a concept to grasp. Everyone needs to get vaccinated to get ourselves herd immunity so we don't pass it on to the most vulnerable. 20-year-olds do not take the vaccine to protect themselves. Okay, yeah, they do. But also, mainly and most importantly, to protect the older and vulnerable. It's not a difficult concept to understand.
That there is a real genuine problem when people with large followings tweet out to many, many people that they shouldn't take this vaccine when we know the hell that this country has been through for the last year and a half. The way out of this is the vaccine. And potentially it would be a good thing if you were to tell your legions of followers to actually get the jab. Not to coerce them, not to force them, but to say that it's actually a good thing to get vaccinated.
That's the biggest point here, and this is the one that I always hammer home. He just said the way out of this is the vaccine. So anyone that's anti-vaccine, what is their alternative exactly? But for me, there seems like two choices. We get everyone vaccinated and we get past this, or we don't vaccinate everyone, we go back to normal and just let millions of people die. They literally are the only two choices. So if you're anti-vax, then you must be pro just letting the virus run wild and just letting millions of people die. There's no other option. That's all you have. You only have those two options.
Vaccine, when we know the hell that this country has been through for the last year and a half, the way out of this is the vaccine. And potentially it would be a good thing if you were to tell your legions of followers to actually get the jab. Not to coerce them, not to force them, but to say that it's actually a good thing to get vaccinated.
I will have my team run my next set of tweets past you, Tom, and you can exercise my freedom of speech for me. Is that what you're after? Because I'm more than happy to do that if you'd like.
Well, I'm not trying to.
You're asking me to.
God, oh my God, this is so exhausting. Literally, this is the only argument that Laurence Fox has. Is basically, well, I might be wrong, but I have freedom of speech, so I'm allowed to say it on Twitter if I want to. This isn't a debate about whether you should be on Twitter or not. This is a debate about whether what you're saying is a load of shit.
Well, I'm not trying to.
You're asking me to tweet what your opinion, and I'm not going to.
Well, I'm asking you why you haven't been tweeting that. I'm asking, actually, more than that, why you seem to have been dissuading people from getting this vaccine.
Because I don't want a two-tiered society. I don't want a society where you're mandated by the government to take medicine to go about your everyday life.
Laurence Fox, that's not an answer to the question. Asking people to not get this vaccine, or indeed dissuading people and spreading, quite frankly, mistruths about the vaccine, saying that it hasn't passed clinical trials when it very clearly has.
Clinical trials.
It very clearly has. It's passed stage 3 clinical trials,
which is completed its full clinical trials.
It has completed its stage 3 clinical trials.
Stage 3.
Yes.
How many stages are there, Tom?
There are 3 stages in the approval process of any vaccine. That's how it works.
It has not completed full clinical trials, won't do till 2023.
It actually has. It has passed, and you can tell because we know that there are many different vaccines. Novavax, for example, has not yet been approved. Moderna has been approved. AstraZeneca has been approved. Pfizer has been approved. But there are other, like J&J and like Novavax, that haven't yet. There's the difference in terms of passing your clinical trials and not. What I think you're referring to, and what you refer to a lot online, is this idea of the post-trial study, which goes on for a couple of years after the trials. That's not part of those clinical trials. Those clinical trials have been passed, and I think it would be a good thing to stop spreading misinformation over this.
Right. As I said, I'll pass my tweet through you next time, and you can exercise my freedom of speech for me.
Yet again, he goes back to the same argument. It doesn't matter if I'm wrong, because I'm allowed to have freedom of speech. That's not an argument, Laurence. If you're so confident that the vaccine hasn't passed clinical trials, let's see some evidence. Give us some evidence. No. All you have to say is, I'm allowed to speak complete bollocks because it says so in the law of this country.
Well, on that note, I'm afraid we have to leave it and go to a break. But Laurence Fox, thank you very much for coming and for this spirited debate. Cheers.
Thanks, Tom.
Actually, quite a little pleasant exchange there at the end, wasn't there, between the two of them? Now, I was absolutely shocked that I've actually found a video on GB News YouTube channel where I 100% totally agree with the presenter. I'm shocked. I'm actually genuinely shocked. Maybe GB News are going to turn a new leaf. Let's see. But to be honest, they'll probably fire this guy like they did with the guy that took the knee for going against their viewers. Now, I've said before, it's really strange, isn't it, how you can watch one video and take a completely different opinion to someone else watching the exact same video. Now, I watched that video and just saw that presenter, Tom Harwood, just completely wipe the floor with Laurence Fox. Laurence Fox didn't have any argument. As I said, the only argument he had was, well, there's free speech, so I'm allowed to be wrong. That's pretty much his only argument, and something about it hasn't gone through the 4th test. The vaccine hasn't gone through the 4th test, even though it doesn't exist. I mean, that was his argument. But if you dive into the comment sections of GB News, everyone is saying that Laurence Fox won that argument. How could he have won that argument? He didn't say anything. He had like 3 opportunities to give his point across, give his argument, but instead he chose to just make a joke about Tom Harwood should maybe, you know, inspect his tweets before he sends them out. That was his argument. How can you say he won? And this is what's so insane. I've totally come to the conclusion now that these people are just brainwashed beyond belief. I don't think they can be saved. I've done so many videos on talk radio viewers and GB News viewers and Alex Belfield viewers, and I tried to make some sort of sense and see if there's some way of persuading these folks, but they're too far gone now. They're so far gone that they can watch that interview and think that Laurence Fox won that. It just absolutely blows my mind. It really does. I mean, go check out the video if you want yourself and have a look at the comment section. It's absolutely deranged. It really is. That's all from me. Let me know what you think. Take care.